Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, and for today's video I actually did a little playing ahead of time, and I think I'm going to make something similar to this lovely card using a brand new 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. This one is called Mandala Blooms, and it is super pretty. I do love the way that all of I love those flowers that basically pop up. I think it is just so cool. So let's go ahead and take a look. What I did do one panel already and added a little color, and I'll show you how I did that. And then I just grabbed up some of the products from the sealed collection from Spellbinders and made all the rest for this. So I'm going to use mostly the same products, and I've got a second panel that I can make a second card from the first time around. But let's go ahead and take a look at how to use this 3D embossing folder. First off, I do have a piece of white cardstock. I like using white because then I can add whatever colors I want. Just go ahead and place that in there. I try not to go too close to the edge, the folded edge, because sometimes it wants to pinch it there and doesn't want to go through my machine. Now I'm going to take out the platform base for the universal plate system. You want to use just platform base A, because if you use that plus the topper, it's not going to fit. We do have some instructions right down over here that show you how to do this. This is how to build a 3D embossing folder. You use the platform base, which is what I'm holding here. You use your 3D embossing folder with your paper inside, and then you use adapter plate D. You do not use a regular plate. So let me grab out that. So I've got my adapter plate D. And now I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. So I've got my Platinum 6 right here. I'm just going to run that through. Another quick tip is try not to have the edge of your adapter plate lined up with the edge of your embossing folder, because then sometimes it doesn't want to work, which is probably one reason why the adapter plate is longer than your embossing folder. So we're going to let the rollers catch the top plate before they catch the embossing folder, and then we're just going to crank that on through. Sometimes it does need a little muscle, especially if you've got, and I did not bring it down far enough. Let me move this just a touch. But especially if you're using heavyweight cardstock like what I am today. Okay, here we go. And I'll get the Platinum 6 out of the way. And let's take a look at that lovely texture. I think this looks fabulous. I really do. So what I'm going to use this time is something else that I just got in, and that was kind of what I was doing with these. I was just experimenting with new products. So I recently picked up the paper pouncers from Picket Fence Studio. These are also available on the Spellbinders website, as well as some other places. I'm going to go this time. I think I want to go with some brighter colors. So let me grab out some ink. Okay, so I grabbed out some of my Catherine Pooler inks. The ones that I used on this initial panel, I did use all that jazz on this one. And I love the way that it turns out. I mean, it was so easy to get that color down and not really worry too much about it getting in all the places you don't want it. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with the orange, and I'm going to go with Tutti Frutti. And this is what this thing looks like. It's like a soft, basically a soft makeup sponge. And I love the little handle. It makes it easy to do. I'm just going to add some ink to my sponge and just gently pounce it. And the way that it works, it kind of puts the most color right in the middle, and then it's softer going out. So I've got my little mandala, little flower there that is colored, where the outside of it, all the rest is not. So I think that is pretty cool. I'm going to add a couple of orange. I'm just going to do kind of a spattering. Actually, I'm going to try to be smart, because I don't know where I want all my colors. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to do a triangle. So I'm just going to add these in a triangle formation, and then I'll come back in with another color. Yeah, you just pounce it until you've got as much color as you want. Just making sure to focus the center of your pounce right in the center of where you want it, so it can kind of just blend out a little bit into the white. I think that is super, super cool. So after I got my little triangles done of all the colors, I had a few extra, basically a few extra flowers to go, and I just picked a color that was not right beside it. So I got pink and orange. I do have a purple up there, but I'm going to go ahead and put purple up here. And it takes basically no time to get all of that done. I think this is just so easy. I'm going to have to try it on other embossing folders and stencils and all the other things, but how fabulous is this? So now it is a big enough piece. This is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So now I can cut it in half and put it on 2 cards, and they're going to be super fun and vibrant. I think this will make a really, really great couple of birthday cards. So while I was doing all of the pouncing, paper pouncing, and making that fun, colorful background, I decided on a different idea for the card I want to make with that. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this card, the one using the blue background, basically with the same design as what I did on the other. One thing I am doing a little bit different, I decided I want a little more dimension on my flowers, so I am doubling up the top layer for those. The dies that I'm using for the flowers are from the Sealed Bouquet stamp set. And adding an extra layer of cardstock in between is just going to add a little tiny bit of dimension, make it a little bit, I don't know, a little bit fuller, I guess. So I'm going to do the same thing with my smaller flower. So the outside petals, I've gotten this dark blue. I also changed the colors up a little bit. You can do whatever you want. This is just an idea. So I've got the dark blue, and they're going to go over the light blue. And I decided to do these colors because in my original one, it seemed like those softer colors were getting a little bit lost. So instead, I'm going to go with a little bit of a contrast, still sticking with the blues, and it's going to be still super pretty. But I did want to kind of go a little bit bolder with the colors, and maybe they'll stand out a little bit more. I'm also going with a darker blue for my twine. This one is from the Sealed Twine. So I've got a darker blue that I die cut out, and I cut a smaller piece for the second half. So I've got the one half, and then I've got the other half, and I'm just going to glue those two together and try to line up the twine a little bit. You can do this after you have it on there, but it's off to the side and there's so little that's going to be showing. I figure it doesn't really matter, and since I've got all one piece, it's going to make it easier for me to do this. I had also already trimmed my panel down to 4 by 3 3/4, so it's going to give that little bit of space all the way around. So this one is ready to go. Now I just need to adhere it down, and I can go either direction. I think I'm going to go horizontal, and I don't want my circle to be right over one of the flowers, so that's why I flipped the panel. So I'm going to go right about here. Let's go ahead and add some glue right to the back of that center part. And adhere that down. Also means I'm going to be trimming the stems and such for my flowers because they're not going to be able to pop up quite so high. Now I'm just going to flip it over, add some adhesive to this little tab over here. And just fold that over. And then for this end, I'm going to just use a little bit of tape. Because again, it just needs to fold over, right? So I'm just folding it over, and then I'm going to tape all of these pieces down so they don't come back off. And now our twine is done. Next, I'm going to put my little flowers on the stem here. So there's the first one, and the other one I want the little leaves to be showing, so I'm going to put the leaves, I'm going to put the adhesive on the back of this one, and then I can place my little flower right over the top of them. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these bigger leaves on first, kind of at an angle there, and putting the adhesive on the back of the flowers, the petals, the leaves, so they will stay in place. And then I can do the same thing with my flowers. There we go. And then I'm just going to trim off the stems. And I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of them as well, so they will stick down to the card. On the first one, I didn't do that, and they kind of keep trying to get caught on things, so I think that's going to work out a little bit better on this. And need a little bit more adhesive behind this flower. So for the sentiment, I'm going with a little message to say and thank you, just like I did on the other. On the other card, I fussy cut out the little sentiment here and decided instead I'm going to do this on a square, and I'm going to mat it on some dark blue cardstock. So I'm just using the edge, and then I'm going to use my paper trimmer to trim it down, leaving that little bit of a border. And I love this paper trimmer because this is so easy and I do it so much. Basically, all I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the edge of my cardstock with the edge of my finger guard and just trim it down, and that always makes up a perfect little edge there. It gives me just a perfect little size mat. That might be one of the reasons why I love that size mat too, though, because it is so easy to do. I don't have to measure, I don't have to try to line up my cardstock, none of those things, but it makes it really, really pretty to add that little tiny mat all the way around your card, or around, in this case, a sentiment. So I think that is going to be perfect. Next, what I'm going to do is something a little bit different. You may have noticed on the other card that I have a cool wax seal on here. Now, this wax seal is not a wax seal. That's actually embossing powder. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do today. First off, I'm going to die cut out this piece. This is from the faux wax seals stamp set. This is the coordinating die. So I'm going to pick out the larger one. You can do it however you want to, but I'm going to pick out the larger one. I'm just going to cut it out of some white cardstock. So what I'm going to do now that I've got my little piece, and it's about the right shape as, you know, a kind of a glob of wax, right? So now I'm going to just cover it in embossing powder. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use your embossing pad. Mine is a little dry. So I am using this clear embossing ink bottle to do this. And then I'm going to put it in some silver embossing powder. Now this is some that someone gave me out of their stash when they were destashing. They decided they weren't going to do crafting anymore, so they gave me a bunch of stuff out of their stash. This is probably 2 years ago, and I never have gotten around to using it all. So I'm going to go ahead and use up some of this silver ink. And again, I don't know what brand it is or anything like that, and it is pretty old. To make sure that it doesn't fly off the top, I tried to start my embossing from underneath, get that all nice and heated. And then while it's hot, I'm going to go ahead and add some more embossing powder on top. And heat it up again. Okay, I think that's probably enough, but I will most likely be heating it back up at least one more time. And the reason for that is that I want to add an impression that's going to look like a wax seal. And for that, I'm actually just using one of the stamps out of the faux wax seal stamp set. I'm going to use the Thanks stamp. And I'm going to press that down into the nice and hot embossing powder. You want to heat it until you can see it moving around. You can tell that it's all molten. And I did have to do this a couple of times to make sure that I got the right look. There, you can see it is moving around a little bit. And I'm going to give it a second for it to cool down a little bit before I remove my stamp. So my stamp is stamped down into that nice hot embossing powder, because what the embossing powder is, it's plastic. It is just a plastic. And this is a photopolymer stamp, so it's not going to damage your stamp in any way. I've already done this a couple of times, have had no problems with it. Okay, now I'm going to just peel off my stamp and we can take a look at the impression. And if it turns out it doesn't look exactly the way that you want, you can always reheat everything and go again. But I think that looks pretty good. That looks like a wax seal. Okay, so we are now ready to put everything together. I'm also going to use up some of my fun foam that has been sitting in my stash for a while. This one has some adhesive on one side, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that down on the back of my card panel. Part of the reason I'm doing it first is so that I don't smush my embossing powder too much, and I'm going to go ahead and put that onto a card base. And we'll go ahead and put this down onto the front of my card, leaving that nice border. So now I can add my sentiments, just add the little message to say up here near the top. And I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of my faux wax seal. I'm adding quite a bit because we also have those couple of stems, and I'm going to put it on there a little bit at an angle. Let me make sure I got it right side up. I'm going to put it at a little bit of an angle so it looks more like it. Yes, that's the right direction. More like it was just stamped on there. So that's going to finish up this card video using the 3D embossing folder and some of the older sealed stamp sealed by Spellbinders collection. I think these turned out really pretty, and I will be using this for a couple more cards coming up in a new video coming up shortly. So you guys be sure to check out this playlist to see some more videos where I'm using Spellbinders products, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.